Picture this. You're on top of the world, multi-platinum albums, sold-out arenas. Then, in one moment, one decision, one betrayal, it all crashes down. Not from outside forces, but from the very people who built it with you. These are 10 R&B groups who destroyed themselves at their peak. Sometimes your biggest enemy isn't the industry, it's the person standing right next to you on stage. Number 10, the Delfonics. Let's start with one of the smoothest soul groups to ever come out of Philadelphia. The Delfonics emerged in 1968 with a sound that was pure silk, falsetto harmonies that could make you cry. Songs like La La Means I Love You and Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time weren't just hits, they were cultural moments. They won Grammys. They dominated soul radio. They were the soundtrack to romance in the late 60s and early 70s.
Well, what a dumb thing to think of.
3 members, William Hart as the lead voice, his brother Wilbert, and Randy Kane. Together they created magic in the studio.
You're so doggone pretty.
Their producer, Tom Bell, was crafting some of the most sophisticated soul music ever recorded.
I got to have you, and I'm gonna say hey.
But here's where things started unraveling. By 1971, creative tensions emerged. Randy Kane wanted more lead vocal opportunities, and he felt like he was being relegated to background duties while William Hart got all the spotlight. And he had a point. Every hit featured William's falsetto. Randy's voice was barely featured.
Won't you please take my hand?
The confrontations became frequent. Studio sessions turned tense. Randy felt undervalued. William felt like Randy didn't understand that the Delfonics' signature sound was built around his falsetto.
I just can't do without you.
Both had valid points. Neither would compromise. In 1971, Randy Kane left the group, just walked away.
You're so doggone pretty. I got.
They replaced him quickly and tried to continue, but something fundamental had shifted. The chemistry that made their harmonies special was disrupted. New members could sing the parts, but they couldn't recreate the magic.
Won't you please take my hand?
Then came the legal nightmare. Multiple people started using the Delfonics name. Randy formed his own version, and William formed another. For years, there were different groups touring as the Delfonics, confusing fans and diluting the brand. The legal battles drained everyone financially.
Somebody loves you.
Court fees piled up. Nobody was making real money because the brand was fractured. By the mid-70s, all the momentum was gone.
Every day I want you.
The hits stopped coming. The bookings dried up. Here's the tragedy. William Hart has admitted in interviews that losing Randy was the beginning of the end. That pride and ego destroyed something beautiful. They were at their peak, on top of the world, and they let it slip away over who got to sing lead. Number 9, the Dramatics Detroit. 1971, the Dramatics had just released What You See Is What You Get, and it shot to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Number 1 on the R&B charts, their album went gold. They were the hottest group in soul music. 5 members with harmonies so tight you couldn't slip a piece of paper between them. Ron Banks with that distinctive lead voice. Larry Demps, Willie Ford, Elbert Wilkins, and L.J. Reynolds creating the most intricate background vocals in the business. But success at that level attracts attention, solo attention. Record executives started approaching Ron Banks privately, offering him solo deals, telling him he was the real star, that the group was holding him back from superstardom. Ron started believing it. By 1973, his attitude changed. He'd show up late to rehearsals. He missed promotional appearances. When he did show up, he'd demand changes to arrangements that gave him more solo moments. The other members were getting frustrated. Then came the power move. Ron wanted his name added to the group billing, wanted it to be Ron Banks and the Dramatics. The other four refused. They'd built this together, suffered together, succeeded together. Nobody was bigger than the group. The standoff lasted months, tension at every show, every recording session. Finally, in 1973, Ron Banks left to pursue a solo career. He was convinced he'd be the next Marvin Gaye, the next Smokey Robinson. His solo career flopped hard. The first album barely made a dent. Radio ignored it. The public wasn't interested in Ron Banks alone. They wanted the Dramatics. Meanwhile, the remaining four members recruited LJ and Reynolds as the new lead and actually had continued success. In the Rain became one of their biggest hits in 1972. They proved they could survive without Ron. But Ron eventually came back, humbled, ready to rejoin. The group took him back, but the magic was never quite the same. The trust was broken. The brotherhood was fractured. Years later, Ron admitted that leaving was the biggest mistake of his career. That ego convinced him he was bigger than he was. That sometimes being part of something great is better than trying to be great alone.
Quick question, are you subscribed? If not, you're part of the 99% who watch and disappear. Here's the problem, YouTube won't show you our next video unless you subscribe. So if you want more untold music stories like this, hit that button right now, 2 seconds, do it before you forget.
Number 8, the Isley Brothers. Now, the Isley Brothers had one of the longest careers in music history. But there was a period in the early 80s when they almost destroyed everything they'd built. By 1983, the Isley Brothers were legends. Decades of hits. Shout, twist and shout. It's your thing, that lady. They'd survived every trend, adapted to every era. They were untouchable. The classic lineup at this point was the three original brothers, Ronald, Rudolph and O'Kelly, plus the younger generation, Ernie Isley on guitar, Marvin Isley on bass, and Chris Jasper on keyboards. This six-man lineup had created some of the most sophisticated funk and soul of the 70s and early 80s. But here's where things got complicated. The younger members, Ernie, Marvin, and Chris, were the musical innovators, or they were writing the hits, creating the modern sound. They felt like they deserved equal billing and equal money. The original three brothers felt like it was their name, their legacy, their group. Financial disputes erupted, publishing disputes, credit disputes, who deserved what percentage of what. The younger members felt exploited, the older members felt disrespected. Family dinners became war zones. In 1984, the group split. The younger members formed Isley Jasper Isley and took the modern sound with them. The original brothers kept the Isley Brothers name, but lost the musical edge that had kept them relevant. Both sides had moderate success separately. but neither side reached the heights they'd achieved together.
Oh no, I don't think so.
Isley Jasper Isley had a few R&B hits, but never crossed over to mainstream success. And the original Isley Brothers music sounded dated without the younger members' innovation.
Still, I know you, brother, very well.
No.
Here's the heartbreaking part. This was family, blood relatives, and they let money destroy those bonds.
And then he replied.
Thanksgiving dinners were split, weddings were awkward, funerals were tense, all because they couldn't agree on business terms. They eventually reconciled in the late 80s, but O'Kelly had passed away by then.
Can't you see two men are talking?
Marvin became seriously ill. The window for their greatest potential had closed. All that talent, all that history, fractured over percentages and egos.
Told you to get to walking. Now
Number 7. Shalamar, Los Angeles. 1977. Shalamar was formed as a studio project that became a real group. By 1979, with the lineup of Jeffrey Daniel, Jody Watley, and Howard Hewitt, they became one of the biggest acts in R&B. The second time around, A Night to Remember, Dead Giveaway. These weren't just songs, they were anthems. Their combination of slick choreography and sophisticated soul made them MTV darlings before MTV even existed. They were selling out arenas worldwide, but behind the glitz was a business arrangement that was fundamentally broken. Their creator and manager, Dick Griffey, had structured deals that heavily favored him and the label. The group members were making a fraction of what they should have been earning. By 1983, Jody Watley was getting tired of it. She was the visual star, the fashion icon. Her image was being used to sell records, but she wasn't seeing the money. She started pushing for renegotiation. Dick Griffey refused. Then Jeffrey Daniel joined her cause. They both wanted out, wanted to renegotiate or leave. Howard Hewitt was caught in the middle. He understood their grievances, but didn't want to rock the boat. Here's where it gets messy. Jody and Jeffrey left in 1983, just walked away at the peak. Their final album, The Look, was climbing the charts when they quit. Howard stayed and tried to continue with new members. Jody went solo and had success. Looking for a new love made her a star in her own right. Jeffrey moved to England, became a dance music pioneer. Howard kept Shalamar going, but it was never the same. The chemistry was gone, the magic disappeared. But here's the real tragedy. Years later, all three admitted that the split was mishandled. That they should have fought together for better terms instead of fragmenting. That their power was in their unity, and by splitting, they gave management exactly what they wanted. Divide and conquer. They tried to reunite multiple times over the years, brief tours, one-off performances. But too much time had passed, too many hurt feelings, too many missed opportunities. The moment was gone. Number 6, The Spinners, Detroit, then Philadelphia.
oh, you hold the key, but baby,
The Spinners had one of the most remarkable transformations in soul music history.
whenever you call me, I'll be.
After years of moderate success in Detroit, they moved to Philadelphia in 1972 and teamed with producer Tom Bell. What followed was pure magic.
It's up to me to bow.
I'll Be Around, Could It Be I'm Falling in Love, The Rubber Band Man, Then Came You with Dionne Warwick. Hit after hit after hit.
Whenever you want me, I'll be there.
5 members creating some of the smoothest soul ever recorded. Philippe Wynne on lead vocals was the secret weapon. His voice could do things other singers couldn't even attempt. Emotional, powerful, unique. But by 1977, Philippe started feeling constrained. He was a dynamic performer who wanted to do more than just stand and sing. He wanted to move, to perform, to be theatrical. The Spinners' style was more reserved, are more traditional, stand in place and let the voices do the work. Philippe also felt underpaid. He was the lead voice on all the hits. His voice was selling millions of records, but the money was split equally among all 5 members. He felt that wasn't fair. Tension built through 1977, arguments about performance style, about money, about creative direction.
Oh, you hold the key, but baby,
The other members felt Philippe was becoming difficult. Philippe felt they were holding him back. In late 1977, Philippe Wynne left the Spinners to pursue a solo career.
it's up to me to buy.
He was convinced he'd be huge, the next Stevie Wonder, the next Marvin Gaye.
Whenever you call me, I'll be.
Major labels were courting him. The future looked bright. His solo career struggled. A few minor R&B hits. Nothing major, nothing that matched what he'd done with the Spinners.
Out gracefully.
Meanwhile, the Spinners replaced him with John Edwards and continued having hits. Working My Way Back to You went to number 2 in 1980.
Whenever you want me, I'll be there.
But here's the truly tragic ending. Philippe Wynne died in 1984 of a heart attack while performing on stage. He was only 43 years old. He never got the solo success he dreamed of, never reconciled fully with the Spinners, died with regrets about how things ended. The surviving Spinners have all said losing Philippe was devastating, that they should have found a way to make it work, that egos and money destroyed a brotherhood that should have lasted forever.
Whenever you call me, I'll be there.
Number 5. The O'Jays Philadelphia International Records, 1972.
We were made.
The O'Jays were about to become one of the biggest groups in soul music. Backstabbers, Love Train, For the Love of Money.
For each other.
These songs weren't just hits, they were social commentary, they were statements. The O'Jays, with producers Gamble and Huff, were creating the soundtrack to Black America in the 70s.
Oh, baby.
3 members, Eddie Levert, Walter Williams, and William Powell. Their harmonies were immaculate, their message was powerful, their success was undeniable. But William Powell was sick. He had cancer. By 1975, he was struggling to perform, missing shows, unable to tour extensively.
I've been hoping, I've been looking.
The group was at their peak commercially, but William's health was declining rapidly. Here's where the impossible decision came. The group needed to tour, their contracts required it. Their income depended on it. But William couldn't do it. The other members were faced with a choice: cancel everything and support William, losing millions, or replace him temporarily and keep the machine running. They chose the machine. Sammy Strain from Little Anthony and the Imperials was brought in to replace William. Temporarily, they said, just until William got better.
Be grieving, don't go.
But William never got better. He died in 1977, and Sammy Strain wasn't temporary anymore. He became a permanent member. The O'Jays continued with massive success. Used to Be My Girl in 1978 was huge, but the circumstances haunted them. William's family felt abandoned, felt like the group chose money over loyalty. The O'Jays defended their decision, said William wanted them to continue. That stopping wouldn't have saved him. Both sides had valid points.
Forever forever mine.
But the relationship between the group and Williams' family was permanently damaged. At Williams' funeral, tensions were obvious.
We were made for each other.
For years afterward, Williams' widow spoke publicly about feeling betrayed. Eddie Levitt has said in interviews that it was the hardest decision he ever made, that there was no good answer,
All because you're my kind.
that losing William broke something in the group that never fully healed. Success continued, but the joy was different. The brotherhood was incomplete.
That someone I've been hoping.
Number 4, Earth, Wind and Fire, Los Angeles. Late 1970s. Earth, Wind and Fire was the biggest band in the world. Not just R&B, the world. September, Shining Star, Reasons, After the Love Has Gone. Selling out stadiums, winning Grammys, revolutionizing live performance. Maurice White had created something unprecedented, a band that blended funk, soul, jazz, rock and African music into something completely unique. But by 1980, cracks were showing. The touring schedule was brutal, 200+ shows a year. The pressure to top each album was immense. Some members were exhausted, some were struggling with substance abuse, some just wanted normal lives. Philip Bailey, the falsetto voice that defined so many hits, wanted to do a solo album. Maurice White was against it, felt it would divide focus, divide the brand. But Philip pushed, and eventually got his way. In 1984, Philip's solo album Chinese Wall was released with the hit Easy Lover, featuring Phil Collins. It was huge, bigger than some Earth, Wind and Fire albums. And it created a problem. Now Philip had leverage, had options. The power dynamic in the group shifted. Other members started getting solo deals too. Verdine White did projects. Maurice himself had been doing solo production work for years. The group that once moved as one unified force was now a collection of individuals with separate careers. When they came together for Earth, Wind and Fire projects, the focus wasn't the same. The magic was diluted. Maurice called a hiatus in 1984, said the group needed a break. That break lasted 4 years. By the time they reunited in 1987, the music landscape had changed. Their sound was considered dated. The comeback album underperformed. Here's the painful part. They never fully recaptured what they had. They continued touring for decades on nostalgia, made good money, but the creative peak was over. The period from 1975 to 1981 was their moment of pure magic, and it ended because individual ambitions pulled the collective apart. Maurice White later admitted that allowing solo projects was a mistake, that it fractured the unity that made them special, that sometimes protecting the collective means sacrificing individual opportunities. Number 3, The Drifters. The Drifters had one of the most complicated histories in music. Multiple lineups, dozens of members over the years. But there was one period, one specific implosion that stands above the rest. In 1958, the Drifters were huge. There Goes My Baby was revolutionary. One of the first R&B songs to use strings and timpani, it changed the sound of popular music. Benny King was the lead voice. The future was unlimited.
We could stay forever, you and I.
But here's where it gets dark. The group's manager, George Treadwell, had a business model that was ruthless. He owned the Drifters' name, not the singers, the name. Which meant he could fire everyone and hire new people, and it would still be the Drifters legally. Internal conflicts emerged in 1960. Some members wanted more money, some wanted creative control, some wanted better working conditions. Normal labor disputes, but George Treadwell had no intention of negotiating.
We could stay forever, you and I.
Here's what he did. He fired the entire group, every single member, including Ben E. King, the voice of their biggest hits. Just fired them all and brought in a completely new set of singers.
We could stay forever, you and I.
Put them in the matching suits, gave them the sheet music, sent them on tour as the Drifters. The original members were devastated. They'd built the brand, created the sound, and now they were legally prohibited from using the name they'd made famous. Benny King went solo and had success with Stand By Me, but the others struggled. The new Drifters, to be fair, were talented. They had major hits. Up on the Roof, Under the Boardwalk, on Broadway. But it created a strange situation. Fans didn't know they were listening to completely different people.
We could stay forever, you and I.
This pattern continued for decades. Whenever members got too expensive or too demanding, George Treadwell would fire them and bring in replacements.
You and I, holding hands together.
By the 1970s, there were multiple groups touring as the Drifters, with no original members in any of them.
We could stay forever, you and I.
The legal battles were endless. Former members sued, lost, sued again, lost again. The name was owned by management, and there was nothing they could do about it.
We could stay forever, you and I.
The lesson here is brutal. Talent alone isn't enough. If you don't own your name, your brand, your business, someone else does. And they can take it away whenever they want. Number 2, Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Wait, take it back to the light.
Here's a group that did everything right for decades. Family bond, incredible talent, consistent hits, and still they almost destroyed themselves at the peak.
That live without him in mind.
Gladys Knight and the Pips. Gladys and her brother Merrill Bubba Knight, plus cousins William Guest and Edward Patton. Family, blood, 4 decades of success together.
The world he left.
From I Heard It Through the Grapevine in 1967 to Midnight Train to Georgia in 1973 to Love Overboard in 1987.
Yeah. Ooh, yo.
They dominated multiple eras, won Grammys, sold millions, were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Said he's going back to find.
But by the mid-1980s, tensions emerged. Gladys was the star, always had been, but she was getting offered opportunities that didn't include the Pips.
The hard way, the dreams don't always.
Acting roles, solo albums, television specials, big money opportunities. The Pips understood she was the star, but they also felt like they'd been part of the journey. That every success was collective, that she shouldn't make major career moves without consulting them.
He's going back.
In 1987, Gladys announced she was doing a solo album. The Pips found out from a press release. They felt blindsided, hurt.
To a simpler place and time. Oh, you see.
After 40 years together, this was how she told them. Arguments ensued, family dinners became battlegrounds. Gladys felt like she'd earned the right to make her own decisions.
Now be with him.
The Pips felt abandoned. Both sides had valid points. The group officially disbanded in 1989. Gladys went solo. The Pips tried to continue as a trio. Neither side achieved the success they'd had together. Gladys had hits, but nothing massive. The Pips without Gladys were nostalgia acts at best. Here's where it gets really painful. This was family. Merrill was her brother. They'd grown up performing together. Holidays became awkward, weddings were tense. Their mother was caught in the middle, trying to mediate between her children. For 8 years, they didn't speak. 8 years, from 1989 to 1997. Family members divided into Team Gladys and Team Pips. The wounds ran deep. They finally reunited in 1997 for a tour, made some money, performed together, but the ease was gone.
Oh, yes, he did. He said he would.
The natural chemistry was forced. They were going through the motions for the paycheck and the fans. When the Pips retired in the late 1990s due to health issues, there was relief mixed with the sadness.
I'd better live in his world than live without him.
The pressure to pretend everything was fine was finally over. Gladys has said in interviews that the split was the greatest regret of her career. That family should come before everything. That no amount of solo success could replace what they had together. But by the time she realized that, time and hurt feelings had done their damage. Number 1, The Temptations. And here we are, the number 1 spot, The Temptations. Arguably the greatest male vocal group in music history, and a story of self-destruction that spanned decades. Motown, 1964, the classic lineup. David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks, Paul Williams, Melvin Franklin, and Otis Williams. They had it all. The voices, the choreography, the songs. My Girl, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, I Wish It Would Rain. But by 1968, David Ruffin had a problem. He was the lead voice on most of the hits, the most recognizable face, and he wanted the group renamed David Ruffin and the Temptations. Wanted his name out front, wanted more money, wanted star billing. The other 4 refused. This was a group, everyone was equal. That's what made them special. David's response was to become increasingly difficult. Missing rehearsals, showing up late to shows, demanding changes to arrangements. In 1968, they fired David Ruffin. At the peak, right when they were the biggest group in the world, replaced him with Dennis Edwards, and they kept having hits. Cloud 9, I Can't Get Next to You, Papa Was a Rolling Stone. But that was just the beginning. Eddie Kendricks left in 1971 over similar issues. Paul Williams was forced out in 1971 due to alcoholism and health problems. He died in 1973 under mysterious circumstances, ruled a suicide but disputed by family. The Temptations became a revolving door. Members came and went, some fired, some quit, some died. At one point in the 1980s, there were 4 different groups touring as the Temptations with various former members. Legal battles were constant. Who owned the name? Who had the right to perform as the Temptations? Otis Williams, as the founder and only continuous member, controlled the legal trademark. But morally? Ethically? It was complicated. Former members struggled. David Ruffin tried solo careers, had some success but never matched the Temptations. Battled addiction, died in 1991 of a drug overdose in tragic circumstances. Eddie Kendricks went solo with moderate success. Died of lung cancer in 1992.